afternoon, everyone. Please welcome back to our second day at the Roundabout Talk Show. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we have
Nikissi Serumaga. Hi.
Nikissi Serumaga is a key stakeholder in the arts community, and I would love, as a person who has dealt with the administrative part of the arts and and you've dealt in the arts for a really long time, what do you feel about the artist infrastructure currently?
Sure. So I guess just for a little bit of personal background, I came back to Kampala in 2016 and I started working with 32 Degrees East in Kampala, which is amazing. Obviously my absolute favorite art center in Kampala. And I worked there for 2.5 years before becoming a freelance filmmaker. So this is where my perspective of experiences come from. In terms of infrastructure, there's obviously like the really obvious things like money and education that are a challenge. What I've seen, both being a freelancer and working at 32, a really vital role that's missing is somebody who is like an arts administrator, somebody who understands the artistic practice, but is also able to kind of really just conduct the backbone, like day-to-day activities that need to happen. And I think that this is also kind of a reflection of how the industry is not yet, or let's say the economy is not yet big enough that dynamic specialized roles can exist. And so it would be really great to see individuals, institutions, organizations moving from a space where we're operating in very generalized ways. Like, I'm a filmmaker, but I also hold the camera, I record sound, I take photos, I do a podcast. Actually, at some point, this is too much. And it completely dilutes the talent and the quality of the project that can come out at a particular point in time. Way too much, way too many things. You can't be good at all those things and file your taxes correctly. So it's just like, actually that doesn't work. So from an infrastructural perspective, it's almost like, how do we create economies, jobs, roles, spaces, not where people can become hyper specialized like they are in different parts of the global north. I don't think that's necessarily our vibe, but where we can specialize a little bit more so that we can actually focus on the things that we're good at and the things that we want to pursue. Essentially, diversity of roles is something that's really big for me. In the overall.
It's interesting that you said, because I agree with that problem that you've addressed. Do you feel that networking and collaboration, yes, on one hand, addresses it to some level, but do you think it can be a major financial? Let's say with like people who actually artists may not have information, let's say, on a particular resource that are available to them. If this is available to them, let's say places like 32 or even this space, and this information and connections in the sector, do you feel like that is something that needs to be fostered a bit more?
I think there's so many people who are trying to make that a reality. And whether it's like, creating a workshop where 10 people are attending, people are really trying to make sure that this information becomes clear and available to people. I guess what's interesting to me is like, how can we amplify what people are already doing? How can we support them? So if there's a workshop and it's a question of either advertising or being able to repeat this workshop so that it grows and it's not just a spark, or a one-time offering. A lot of that comes down to funding on some level, which is also just really boring. We're always talking about money, and
it really is. It does become a crucial point. Actually, it's you always come back to the money, no matter how you think about it. Because I was going to say, let's assume what are the legal. Like, I don't think the law protects artists enough, personally, from my lawyer's point of view. So I feel like the law could do a bit more to address artists' issues. Do you feel like there are particular areas that may need a bit more attention, that maybe the law technically caters for, but does not pay attention to that aspect?
100%. It would be really great if the law was, number one, more transparent and like it was like actually fairly accessible to read and to understand. Personally, also the way that the law is administered a lot of the time, it often feels safer to retreat from the law than go towards it as a space of protection. And then I think that sometimes the way bills that are being proposed, the way that they're shaped,
Yes.
is something that feels often punitive and not at all understanding of what it means to be an artist. To have to submit your script to a censorship board is something that sounds absolutely ridiculous to me, actually. To have to pay in dollars to have a permit, or there was one bill, and I'm totally getting the facts wrong, but there was one proposed bill that I read through that was fought very hard by many people at the National Theatre, where they were talking about paying for essentially a permit to be your jobs in thousands of dollars. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any kind of sense. So these kinds of things, yeah, they quite literally damage the playing field that we have.
And I worry that we're moving towards a society because currently we're in a very repressive time where it's like freedoms are being infringed all around the world, not just Uganda. And artists, I feel like, are going to be the next target sooner rather than later because they are the last real fringe of freedom. And so in a political country like ours, I worry that art is going to become very political and it's going to become a bit more restrictive if we are not more vocal about what we are facing.
I guess my challenge to you is like you're saying art is going to become more restricted. It's one of the last fringes of freedom. Is it not already restricted? Is it not being impeded on in a particular way? And we've just become so used to it that this is our standard of freedom, which to be honest is a really low standard. To be able to have your film screen, no matter how big or small the screening is, it still has to go through some kind of censorship board. Again, to me, this is ridiculous. What are you so afraid of people observing? What is that? Yeah, what is that pointing towards? And also, yeah, for I guess discourse, democracy, all these nice ideals that turn into very big ideas, but they are things that we're living on ground. So I guess one thing that is really like maybe as a point of optimism, maintaining connections, digital or physical, with people in countries outside your own, as a reminder to understand that actually not everything you're going through is normal. Not everything is normal. This is not the standard. Actually, this is not the way that people are treated. And just to be able to have that in your course, that even if it's happening, you know that you want to reject it.
Another question I have is how do you feel is a better strategy for reaching artists? Because I do find this particular, I don't say elitism, but a gap in how the arts are distributed, the opportunities are distributed in the arts community. You tend to see the same faces over and over again. And let's say the artists in Kwetu will continue to face the same harassment and like only think about their little area of store. Do you feel like there are some things you could do better as an artist community to reach out to like bring others into the fold and to actually share this opportunity?
One, I feel like kind of unqualified to speak on this because I feel like I'm one of the faces that you see over and over again.
Well, yeah, but you're also one of the faces that I have seen pushing for equality. Like you gave opportunities who typically weren't going to be in those spaces. Like you gave me an opportunity, and that was from a legal background. I had no confidence in the arts. So I believe that. Also, another thing that we formed Roundabout, fostering synergies in different sectors that may work together: psychology and the arts, the law and the arts, because those are different neglected sectors. And I feel like these are areas that we can discuss enough. Since we have discussed that, segueing into the mental health thing, how do you feel about the mental health stability, basically the mental health situation with the artists?
I think before we even jump into mental health, what you're saying is quite interesting around this synergy. And I think that is a great way to be able to bring different people into the space. Some people are artists, they don't realize that they're artists. Some people have artistic tendencies that they don't want to devote their whole career to, but they do want to explore or experiment with or turn into something. And some of the most interesting art that I've seen has been a collaboration between artists and scientists, artists and writers, like whatever it is, some kind of cross-disciplinary approach is really quite interesting. And it also unlocks spaces for resources. So I participated in a residency called Pictures of Aging, which was a research project conducted by Makerere University and Cambridge University. And I was there with another artist, Martin, and Ife was also supposed to be an artist. Unfortunately, she got really sick. And that meant, okay, we weren't able to get paid because of Cambridge's like research and ethical laws or whatever, but it did mean that they opened up resources to be available to 32 Degrees East, to be available to me, Martin, and Ife as individuals. And those are resources that as an artist, it would have been very difficult to access otherwise. So I think that's an interesting way to get new people in the space. And I think that, yeah, diverse people bring more diverse people. Like,
Do you
you
feel
always
like,
want to give each other the hookup.
this is a bit on the spot, but do you feel like there are particular areas that you would see that you would love to see brought into arts, like the example of doing you,
Yeah,
other stakeholders?
to be honest, off the top of my head, not really.
Yeah.
What I think would be nice to see is space for long-term processes. So a lot of the collaborations that happen, not a lot of them, maybe that's an exaggeration. Sometimes the collaborations that happen, it's fashioned towards a particular motive from a grant.
Yes.
We want Ugandan designers to work with this European kind of artist to do this and fulfill this mandate or whatever for a period of 3 months to 6 months. It would be much more interesting if there was space or bandwidth for artists to say, oh wow, we've been friends for 2 years, we've always really admired each other's work. Let's see if over the next calendar year or 18 months, we can develop something together. And I think that is more honest collaboration, and that tends to be more fruitful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than the overreaching.
Trying to fill a grant application.
Yes.
That's actually what happens. So many people have approached, can you be on this grant application? We don't care about each other's work. We don't care about each other.
But together
So how,
you'll be stronger.
if we're doing it on something that we care about, not just because April 18th we have to send something in to so and so. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that is a valid point, and yeah, we do need to foster more collaboration. We personally think about it a lot around about like different stakeholders we could involve that would maybe improve the sector a bit, or maybe elevate things a little bit. And of course, one of the first things we did was bring in psychologists and lawyers, and now we are trying to bring politicians. But it is still a long conversation because there's a lot of gaps in the artist sector, and we may not see all of them. We may be blind to some of them. Do you feel like there are some gaps in the artist sector that we may not have seen, that maybe you have noticed, or maybe you feel like this could be addressed, or maybe this may be able to change?
There was something interesting that someone told me. They lived, I mean, fine, Germany is like a super rich country for artists, like just even by global standards. But they were saying that all artists got a stipend of X amount during COVID. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. They're like, yeah, and sometimes you can also just get grants even off COVID for, just being an artist. Like, this is your artistic practice, this is what you're exploring. The grant is not necessarily project specific. So it'd be great to see either patronage or government support for individuals, not only for projects. That I think it would create a level of safety for artists. Doesn't have to be forever and ongoing, but sometimes a 6-month boost can change your life.
And the funny thing is, the government does give out this stipend.
Ah, really?
Yes, our government gave out money during COVID as well.
Okay.
To artists, but
Okay.
only one organization, the Organization of Musicians, whom they know and who they could find.
Yeah.
So yes, that is
Okay.
thing, because there is the resources, but as well,
How are they?
communication is not there.
Yeah.
And there is, I don't know, there's a gap of one the artists fear this other side, so they don't engage it, and this side, I feel like they also look down,
Yeah.
so they do not engage the side. So there's a lack of communication. There's resources and there's ability to make each other better, but everyone, no one's making the move.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of what you said to me today, a big gaping hole seems to be really just channels of communication. How is information actually disseminated? If people in the capital city are struggling to get this information, how about somebody who's in another city, in a rural area? Like, those kinds of things are really important. So I don't know how you do that, but there must be a way.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
The round table, roundabout.
We're having this conversation to find solutions. I feel like together, as a community, we can find solutions.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Vien. Also, thank you for doing the work that you're doing. It's fantastic. And you're clearly very committed. So I'm
Yeah,
looking
we
forward
are.
to seeing the results. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for your feedback. And thank you for continuing to work with artists, honestly.
Yeah.
Continuing to stick it out because it does get a bit tough after a while.
Yeah.
You could be doing anything else, let's be
Yeah.
honest. But you chose
We've
to
enjoyed.
work with us, so we really do appreciate it.
Yo, I'm here. I'm enjoying.
We love it.
Thank you so much, Vien.